Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Changes Post-COVID, or whatever I called this series, because I've forgotten. My name is Kasanis. Guys, this is actually a very serious series. That's not a joke. I know that I'm joking around here. This is very serious. Things have changed dramatically and will continue to change dramatically within our industry. And I think it's important that we understand what's going to change and how that's going to affect us. Not only is it going to affect our graduates who are now leaving schools and heading into industry, but it's going to affect those that are coming in and how they focus their education. Today, I talked to Miriam Verburg. Miriam is an educator. She works at Centennial College. She teaches in our game funding and our UX courses, as well as our game industry courses. Miriam owns Bloom Digital Media. Bloom Digital Media is an independent studio that specializes in graphic interactive novels. Okay, let's take a look at what Miriam has to say. All right, hi everyone. I am here with Miriam. Miriam is from Bloom Digital Media, and she also teaches at Centennial. She teaches our game funding classes as well as our game business classes, correct? Our game industry classes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So Miriam, why don't you tell us a little bit about your professional career outside of teaching?
Sure. So I got into games in 2010-ish, I think, when I was working for a studio that made kids apps and games. And we worked on Flash games at the time that went with TV shows, and they were pretty fun. And I was a project manager who had done mostly web stuff prior to that. And so getting to work in games felt really freeing because you got to make fun stuff and you could design things and work with art a lot more. And I had played games, but I did not get into gaming from being a gamer and then wanting to make games. I was an artist who was a web designer who then got introduced to making games for kids. And my interest sort of snowballed from there. And I started from doing UX, so I used to do user experience design for websites, and then I did user experience design for games, and then that sort of turned into game design. And now, because I'm running my own studio, I had to learn all the ins and outs of business and marketing and funding and
the hard part of game design.
The hard part. The less, I won't say less creative, because still as the executive producer, I get to be the one making up the games. In a large part, I'm the person who has the visions, but it's much more of a team effort than it was back when I was a UX designer who was, right. Well, no, it's always been a team effort. There's no part of games that isn't a team effort, but I think, now you're gonna have to edit this part, but when you're in the producer's role, it's a team effort where I'm really relying on my team to get the vision created.
Right.
I have less of I'm not holding an oar anymore, I'm directing the ship. So
right.
I think I have to have a lot of trust in people. So that's cool.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us about Bloom as well?
Sure. So we make, so far we've made 2 visual novels, one called Long Story that was a dating sim set in a middle school that was teaching ideas about consent and identity to players. Well, our player base is any age, but the game was designed for younger players to help them understand things about identity and relationships.
Right.
You can play as a trans person, you can play as a gay person, you can play as a straight person, you can play as a person who has no idea what's going on whatsoever and is hoping to figure some things out.
Right.
And that was really fun. And so then the second game we made was called Later Daters. And that is a very similar concept. It's a dating sim, but instead of set at a middle school, it's set in a retirement community. And you play as a senior citizen who is facing many of the same dilemmas that a grade 8 or grade 9 student would face because their spouse has passed on after a while.
Right.
And so they're thrown back into the dating world. They're now in a communal living situation instead of alone on a farmhouse being crabby. So it's a bit of a fish out of water, a bit romantic. We had a lot of fun making that, and we just launched it in April in the middle of this COVID pandemic, which was super weird and interesting.
Yeah.
And do you want me to show some of the gameplay now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So this is the profile page and your save bookmarks, because I'm starting in the middle of the game. So that's my character. I'm playing as that person, and this is my relationship history down there. So you can choose what your spouse history was, what kind of spouse you had, who they were, what their backstory was, and you can also choose a pet.
Okay.
So I'm just going to load my last save. Oh, wait, maybe I can go back to the... we're going to load in the middle of episode...
Spoilers for everyone watching.
Okay. So this is a scene where I have just accidentally asked 3 people on a date to a movie.
Okay.
And this is Esther. That's Jax Argo. Jax Argo is a rock star who has fallen on hard times, so had to give up their cool penthouse to move into a collective living situation. This is Crystal, your neighbor, and this is Esther, who is the chair of the social committee, and you're all going to see a movie together.
Nice.
Yeah. And so this is like sort of the culminating scene in the 3rd episode where they decided to show, because Jax was a rock star, he was in a really bad spacey sci-fi movie in the 80s.
Yeah.
So as a treat for Jax, they've decided to show his movie from the 80s.
Ouch, that's probably gonna be uncomfortable for him.
Sorry?
That's gonna be uncomfortable for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I think the idea is that it's about aging and about being uncomfortable with your old self compared to your young self.
Exactly.
So you're busy flirting with all your dates, and then this is where I'm choosing to be, what is it called? Polyamorous. And everybody's flirting with me. It's a dating sim, so flirting happens a lot. And here comes the movie. So there's young Jax. That's Blair, another resident of the home. Everybody's really happy, but Jax is not happy.
Yeah.
Because Jax wishes that he was handsome still.
And where can they get the game?
They can get the game. It's out on Steam and on Switch right now, and the first 3 episodes have been released, and we are releasing a free DLC, which is a cribbage game, in August.
Nice.
Assuming the lot check goes smoothly, so you can play cribbage with some of your friends from ye old. And then episodes 4 to 6 will release in October.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
It's been really fun.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a few questions, actually about your studio as well. Right now we are going through lockdown. We're still all in lockdown here. Things are starting to change back. I know that we're here in Canada. Miriam's studio is located in Toronto as well, right? In Toronto, Canada. And we're starting to loosen up a bit here, but it hasn't gone back to normal, and I don't know if it's ever going to go back to normal. So I'm hoping it's going to, but I have no idea. What have you had to do at your studio? What changes have you had to make at your studios because of COVID?
We were already a remote studio, so we never had an office, which made one of the major things that is impacting the studios that have workplaces. We have not had to worry about commercial rent or getting all set up for people to work at home because everybody was.
Great. Yeah.
I think one thing that has been interesting is we welcomed a student to come work with us for the summer, and usually we meet them in person before they start. But this time we had to start immediately remotely. And so Jessie has only ever met us online, and so we've been helping her climatize to working with us. And I think as soon as the lockdown started, our project manager, Chris, made the wise suggestion that we do a daily check-in for giving people a sense of structure.
Right.
Like, okay, this is what we're doing today. This is how everybody's feeling. Let's make sure everyone's okay. And then also, like, what are you working on today? And that also like opens up the lines of communication so that if people feel like they need to take a break, I mean, mental health is a big concern right now. So if people are feeling like they need to nap or they need to go away and come back, they can just let us know. So that's been really good. And we'll probably keep doing that after the lockdown is over because it has made the team a lot more cohesive. We watched the Wholesome Games did a direct today. So we all one of our team members did a live stream and we all watched the live stream together.
Right.
And talked about the games that were being featured.
So it's interesting. So there's going to be a lot more socializing online that occurs within, but not only socializing, also work. Obviously, work online, socialize online. Our interviews are all online. Everything like that is kind of occurring. And you're not the first person to tell me that as well. In fact, I'm interviewing a couple of people at Centennial, and I'm doing all of my interviews obviously online. They're going to show me how they can teach. Online.
Yeah, and it's like empowering people. I hate the word empower, but it's been really good to see team members realizing, okay, let's just go into voice chat now and talk about this and make a plan. So people also taking the time, like realizing like, I'm not just going to do this work on my own. Like I should talk to other people. And so I think it's actually increased some of our communications.
Interesting.
Whereas before we would have just waited and been like, okay, well, we're going to do our face-to-face in 2 weeks. So we'll talk about it then. Since we don't know, we just talk about it when it comes up.
Right. Okay. So that's the changes you've kind of made because you were already a remote studio. There wasn't a lot of changes, which is great. You can either talk about Bloom or you can talk about your ideas as far as the industry itself is concerned. What do you think is going to change post-COVID? Are there any of these changes? There's going to be an evolution to our industry. What do you think is going to change overall?
Well, I did have a big discussion with one of the industry groups about this, and there was like a bit of an argument between me and a person who works on much bigger budget games than I do. And they were sort of saying, oh, nothing's going to get made. No one's going to give anybody any money. I mean, we're looking at a period, I think, in the next 5 years where there is not going to be money being thrown around a bunch. Mm-hmm. And so I think looking at making really big, ambitious games with plus 2-year development timelines is not a realistic thing right now. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to fund those. At this point, we're all going, well, we didn't see this coming. So I think for a lot of people, like anything that has a long timeline immediately makes people have alarm bells. Mm-hmm. Whereas things that are a bit shorter, maybe a little bit nimble, a little bit like we can get this out the door quick and take advantage of current conditions.
Right.
I think people are willing to take a risk on.
Right.
So the substance of the argument was people going, well, no one's going to give any money, and other people going, well, I think people are going to give less money because we don't really know what's going to happen. So we have to kind of hedge our bets. So when you're thinking about being a game developer, if your big dream is to work on massive multiplayer online games, then you're not looking at developing your own. You're looking at getting a job with running, and it's just working on retaining their player base. Mm. And if you develop some new stuff, then get solid with the idea that whatever you're making has to take advantage of the fact that people can't leave.
Right.
They may not have a lot of money in the next 3 years.
Right, that's true.
They're looking for play value. Like they're looking for how much time can I spend in this game? How expensive is it?
Right.
How much can it give me? So, and I also think and this is just me, I think I'm right, but it's very anecdotal.
Yeah.
How about that? I get the sense that the games and media are filling a much bigger emotional hole than they used to. So we used to get emotional satisfaction from a lot of things, and now we definitely cannot do half the things we used to do to feel good about life.
True.
And so the games you're thinking of making, the games you're creating, the games you're coming to Centennial to work on, I really hope they have an emotional component. If they have a reason for existing beyond just they look freaking cool, and you get to do some really neat stuff with some really neat weapon systems, I don't think that's going to be a convincing argument for games in the next 3 years.
So you're thinking it's going to be an emotional outlet. It's going to be an opportunity maybe even to socialize, maybe social games will be.
Yeah, definitely communications, talking. I mean, I'm not saying absolutely fighting games are amazing, and I'm not saying don't make them, or I'm not arguing for some sort of huggy-feely thing, although those are the games I love. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying if your argument for the game doesn't include the fact that you're thinking about people who maybe don't get to see their friends as much as they used to, don't have a huge budget anymore for social experiences and maybe can't go outside of the house. So their game investment is social time, it's hangout time, it's play time, it's chatting, it's doing all the stuff.
Right.
So your game design needs to reflect that.
Okay, interesting. All right, I'm going to ask you.
That was like me teaching a class. You're welcome for the free content. See you all in September when you hear that all again.
I hope so. So our students are graduating. We had a set of graduates. Their convocation is going to be online. It's not going to be the best of convocations.
Poor guys.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad for them. What
advice? For people, sorry. People.
What advice do you have for our graduates or people who are trying to break into the industry right now? Do you have any advice on what they should be considering or what they should be doing? Marketing themselves online is obviously going to be extremely important, but is there something you think they should be doing?
Yeah. Again, this is kind of anecdotal, but based on the meetings I've been having with other people in the industry, because people aren't allowed to go out and meet new people in person, and it can be really hard to form strong bonds just over the internet, although we know that can happen. Anybody who has ever met their partner in a different city, dated online for 3 years, knows that it's not impossible, but that the ramifications are really different. So I think that the deal is that you have to be a lot more genuine. You can't make shallow bonds. It can't just be like, oh, we're in here to make a deal. Try to think about how to be reciprocal. Try to think about what you can bring to the table that is something other people could benefit from, or that you could do to help other people. Put your best foot forward. Don't just be out there looking for self, because I think that comes across really obviously when you're doing a Zoom call. If the only thing you're talking about is what you want, nobody is going to be paying attention to that interview.
Okay, awesome.
I keep making weird faces. Edit them all out.
I'm going to edit more in.
No.
More faces.
Put the dog ears and stuff and be like, this is how she did the whole video. Who knows why?